It's another day in Nashville here with the Arc Hive fans. Welcome back. The Archeons band here to talk to you about our next song on the EP, A Forged Reality. Again, links down below. Of course, feel free to visit that all out. We're talking about The Experiment. Of course, we're going through our intros. Beast in over here. We got Mr. Chris Huff on Vox. T. Swain, K. Nasty. Of course, Mr. Timbo Slice here for you. Don't forget your boy Young Cody over here in the corner. Yeah. We're here to talk to you about some fun facts. I know that Mr. Trey Swain over here is buzzing to talk about some stuff, so I'm going to throw it right off the bat over to you, man. What are we talking about today?
The simulation theory.
The simulation theory.
This is probably my favorite theory in AI. Everything like Jesus Christ.
Whoa.
Sorry. Not in the simulation.
The Lord.
But yeah. Simulation theory, for those that don't know, is that we are living in a simulation because technology advances so far that you can run. We're like the Sims, but it's indistinguishable from real life and reality. And the best way is to describe it would be there's only three ways that we're not in a simulation. It's three, right? One is that
more than that.
Technology literally can't get to the point to where it can run indistinguishable. Like there's some kind of blockade that technology can't get to that point. Not enough CPU or something. Two is that a natural disaster occurs and wipes out the world. So we just don't get to that point. And then three would be we get to that point, but those people are like, well, we don't really need to run a simulation. Like, we don't need to do that. So if all of those things aren't true, then the chances of us in a simulation is really high. And that blows my mind.
That reminds me of a Joe Rogan I just watched. I forgot who it was. I think it was like Duncan Trussell or something. He was talking about how if you were able to build this thing, it would just basically be like an endless, like, we're like an idea factory.
Yeah.
Basically. And all the inventions that come to be like in our world are like just able to be, commodified in this, this person who just is running this computer program and getting all these endless ideas.
Yeah. I mean, we've done that with like AI. Like where we, have them go off and do their own thing and like they create their own language and shit. Like, it's crazy.
Man, that's weird to think about. Like, English isn't the language, it's just we created it because they could just, or all of the languages in our shit.
Yeah.
So.
If I may briefly ramble on that subject, what I'm kind of thinking about, if we were being controlled in some way with outer forces, like we're in a simulation and we are part of that idea factory. It's interesting to think about how all of our paths kind of aligned to meeting in Nashville and, how it was almost like this polarizing magnet that like we just knew we had to go. Right. We didn't know what would happen. And now here we are and we're producing, as much content as we can with the free time that we have, building up to this idea of who we ultimately want to be. So that's kind of interesting to think about with this simulation theory in mind.
Well, that's the cool thing about simulation theory is there's so many like different ways you can take it. And so like one way that I've thought about is like you are in like a VR headset kind of.
Right.
Or like hooked in and it's you. Right. Like you are you in the way future whatever world it is. And you just kind of get to choose like the time period you want to go to. So it's kind of like time travel, ancestor simulation. And so I was thinking, I was like, I mean, I say this because I live this life, I guess, but if I was in that future, I think it'd be really cool to go back and, because we're the generation that gets to see kind of like, we had like VHS and stuff, but then we're going to be, and we grew up with that, but then we're going to be the ones that get to see like AI be crazy. So it's like, I would choose this time period, I feel like, because you get to watch this progression and like how AI got to where it's at. And then also, maybe I came back because this is the best time to be a musician. It's like well, like came to the 1994s, born in the 94s for that. So.
We are just in like a biological spacesuit too.
Yeah,
it's weird how that
works.
If there's a you, and then there's a you that's like up there, like
is there a you though
controlling it? You know what I mean?
Or is that just ego?
Where's that?
Well, I mean, It's just like there's a you that thinks and there's a you that
Or
thinks
are we
about the
just-
thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Are we just exploring the simulation for like somebody else? Like, are we just different nodes on the simulation?
Well, it's interesting to think about, like, you ever wonder if perhaps, these far reaches of space, if you think about this simulation running, what if these other galaxies that we see, that supposedly, if we're adopting the theory of, like, the big stretch or even whatever, that galaxies are moving apart from each other within the vacuum of space, like, what if these are other simulations that we can see are happening in other, galaxies, but because of, like, the RAM of the computer we're on, supposedly, in this simulation, we're never going to touch them. Like, we're never going to be able to interact with them.
And that's another theory that people have used, that we are in a simulation, is that we've not made contact with any other life or anything like that. Man, like, I don't know. Like, either we are in a simulation or we're not is, like, the two, that's the only options. Like, and the only thing I could say that, like, we're not, like, we would see glitches like the Mandela effect, or, any kind of like computer error like that. Like, there would definitely be glitches in the system if it were a simulation.
Unless it's perfect.
Well, and like, unless we're like made to not see it, you know what I mean? It's like, they're like, because the people running it would be so intelligent, they'd be like, oh, there's a fuck up. Be like, but then just like,
Recode
maybe
it
to
Maybe
where
there is, and we can't notice it.
Yeah.
Notice the bugs.
exactly.
Right.
So yeah, and so I guess going to like what experiment is about is somehow we figure out that we're a simulation, and the toll that would have on humanity in general, just knowing that we're a computer, we're just running on a computer, and it's like, ignorance is bliss is one of the lyrics. It's like,
most people wouldn't be able to face that.
yeah, it's like, holy shit, because then that just, your identity. What was that Joe Rogan where he talks about like identity and how is the Adam Conover one with the Adam Ruins Everything guy?
You want to pull that up, Cody?
Yeah, and they just talk about, it's like,
Well, we can't
identity
play audio.
protection, where a fact is presented to you, but it goes against everything that you believe. So it's like somebody who's based their life around global warming, and like global warming is not real.
Like,
and
in
then,
too deep.
Yeah, and it's like, you have all these fundraisers for like global warming's not real. And you met your wife at a convention.
You, like, build your life around.
Yeah, and then
believing
it's
that.
like, facts are presented to you that this is real.
Yeah.
And you can't just be like, okay, like, I see these facts, it's like, it is real, I'm on that side now, because then you lose everything. It's like, like, all of your friends and
self,
I've also heard him say on there, don't let your ideology be your identity. That's like the phrase he used.
Ideally, and I feel like, like, that's what we try to do, is if a fact's presented, be like, oh shit, I was wrong, ideally, but like, not a lot of people.
I mean,
like
yeah,
that.
we
So,
try.
So the simulation thing, it would be like, people, it's just like, say with religion and stuff, it doesn't necessarily disprove religion or anything, but it's like, you build your life around Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Scientology, yeah, and it's like, you're a simulation, and it's like, you're kind of wrong, and so.
See, I would just accept that. I would try to accept it.
One of the crazy thoughts I've had about, like, if we are in a simulation, like, being a computer techie, programmer guy, like, we should have ways to hack the system if it is too.
But it would be so smart. Like, you can't.
Like,
It's like
saying everything has holes. Like,
We ever wonder, like, kind of breaking back into our previous conversation in our earlier podcast, like, talking about, like, opening up those, like, rifts and portals, like, so to speak, to other dimensions. Like, what if that is, in a way, hacking the code?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like ayahuasca.
There's and even if it's consciousness.
You ever tried DMT?
Pull that shit up,
That,
Cody.
that's a good point. Like, that is a very good point. Like, psychedelics, like, if everything is part of the simulation, and, like, this shit is grown from the earth, which is part of the simulation, and it opens up your consciousness to where you can see all these things, like, behind the veil, like, yeah, what if that's hacking the system?
The code would be like,
yeah.
Maybe it's more
like,
of a way to allow you, though.
DNA.
It's not like
DNA and, like, compounds and all elements and all that would be, like, the code. So,
Yeah.
like, that would just be, like, a chemical hack.
Yeah.
I guess.
But they would plant that there for you to get that experience. You know what I mean? It's because, like, it would have to be within the simulation that there is DMT and stuff.
Isn't that like, don't they do this in the Hunger Games?
Oh, bro.
Do what in the Hunger
It's
Games?
been a minute.
Just like
I
a.
don't remember it.
Okay, I felt like that was kind of like a simulation-y movie. Like they put them in the thing, and there's like they're like in a dome, kind of, but
Oh,
to then
yeah.
like they can't see it or whatever.
Yeah, I get what
I
you're
feel
trying
like
to
that's
say.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, on a separate note, kind of lighter, you know, talking about the simulation theory kind of makes me think about like Rick and Morty with that episode where they're in that
The
simulation
miniverse.
there. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not the miniverse, but the one where they're actually in the simulation at the beginning. You know, like in season 1. Where, for instance, like the mailman keeps going, "My man,"
Oh,
yeah,
when
yeah,
Jerry's in
yeah.
the simulation,
Yeah.
yeah,
and he gets a job, and he's,
and everything's great.
Yeah.
My man.
Yeah, that's another thing we can talk about is like that's basically VR. Like our technology can probably get to that point where VR is indistinguishable from reality. Like, so what does that mean if we're already in a simulation and then like we're creating smaller simulations? Is it fractals? Does it just go on and on? Like, who's to say like the people above us that made this simulation, if we are in a simulation, who's to say they're not in a simulation?
Which that is like the singularity is.
Yeah.
Creating the simulation you're already in.
Just
Damn.
over and
Maybe
over
the singularity
and over
already
again,
won, and we don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, the Matrix when, you know, Neo gets out and
Yeah.
it's like just run by
Yeah.
those
Shit,
lame
Keanu
things.
Reeves. I love Keanu Reeves. I saw this thing online where he was being interviewed. Someone said he gave the perfect answer to an impossible question. Where someone said, "Keanu, what do you believe happens after we die?" And he goes, "Because I know that those who love us will miss us."
Damn.
I mean, it's,
So-
it's about as far
Yeah.
It was, I think it was Stephen Colbert. I don't know if we want to look that up or not, but
It's about as real as it gets, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Did you find anything on that identity thing, Cody?
No, not exactly.
I mean, I
Because
wanna play
everything
on it.
with Adam Conover that's bringing up is about his trans.
Oh, yeah, the whole trans
conversations.
thing.
It's
yeah,
just-
they had a
yeah.
fight about that.
Yep.
I would just recommend watching that whole podcast.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Adam Conover, what's his
Mhm.
name?
Yes.
Yeah, I would recommend.
Yo,
just
guys, do what
watching
makes you happy. Don't force your kids on shit. Like,
What are we? I'm actually out of the loop on this.
Just going back to the identity thing, about like being attached to a belief, like identifying with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about it in JRE.
Okay.
Adam,
Yeah.
Adam.
They're getting to the point like where they're talking about like, is it, you know, moral to like give kids like, you know, these hormone shots? And
Oh
stuff.
yeah, for a sex change at like what was it, like
Right.
9 or something.
Yeah, 9 or 10, yeah.
Really young.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know, man.
Which I'm all about. You know, do what makes you happy. Like, you know, be who you want to be.
Yeah, well, it makes
But,
you happy,
you know,
but
Make sure it's, you know, you're not forcing that on somebody else, like your ideology and like anything like that. Like, you know, let your kids grow up, and if they want to do it, then let them do it.
I'm
yeah.
gonna stay out of that because I don't really know. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. It sounds fucked up, but who knows? So.
Yeah, I mean,
Archeon talks popular topics.
that's right.
But
Back to the simulation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess like what I'm really interested in is we have like a mixed batch of, you know, like beliefs and stuff. So like
Hail Stan.
yeah. So Tim,
Shout out.
Yes.
how do you feel about the simulation theory with, you know, like with Christianity and everything?
Oh man, that is it's a big question. All right, how do I feel about the simulation theory relating to Christianity?
Yeah, just like having
any
your beliefs
religion
about
Through
like
the lens of.
yeah, like having beliefs about God and everything. Like how do you react to the thought of simulation? Like, or what do you think?
Goodness. All right, here we go. Well, hello, Archeons fans. Let's put our seatbelts on, grab a nice blanket, and perhaps maybe a nice hot cup of
Of cock.
Corona.
a nice cup of hot cocoa.
Very Christian thing to say.
Nice cup of hot cocoa. So I believe that we are mortal, and I believe that we are mortal, and I believe that who we are is finite. Christianity talks about a God being infinite and being eternal. By definition, being always outside of our comprehension. I believe that there is another realm that will always be, like the Bible talks about, that the glory of God the angels look up at him and they immediately face back down to the ground and they keep crying, "Holy, holy." I know, I'm strapping in. You're asking me a big question. We're going with a big answer.
Do your thing.
But it's like, the angels in heaven, they cry out, "Holy, holy," because they can't even look at the glory of God for even more than a brief second. So if we're talking about something that clearly is way above the heavenly realm outside of our comprehension, that being said, it kind of talks about like he holds the universe in his hand, and if they say that God is infinite, we can't label him as saying he is finite in any way, but we are also in his image, as it says. Again, these are way things outside of our comprehension. So they say that if he holds the universe in his hand is like infinite. And then it also talks about, it's like if that is true, then the entire universe in a way, if we even just go with that, is almost like a simulation that he's holding within the palm of his hand. That, not saying that God is doing that, but there is a being who lives way outside of our realm that is that has dominion over all of it.
Mm-hmm. So the simulation theory you believe it could still be like possible?
I think that in a way, like almost kind of bringing popular culture back into it. Like when Thor in the first Thor movie is talking about science and magic, he's like, "What you call magic, we call science."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that in the ways that we try and broaden our human intellect and understanding the ways of science, like science in that way is also discovering the laws of nature that we have not discovered, that are within the code and within the guidelines of this law of nature God has set before us. So I think it's totally possible for us to utilize science to understand what is going on here.
What this is, yeah.
I don't know if I finished that quote about Thor, but what you call magic, we call science.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to kind of like, because I have my own batch of beliefs about that, but like it kind of pretty much just coincides with like everything you said. Like, there's a higher power, and whether we can see it or not, like, there's something out there. There's something that started everything. I don't believe this world is by any means like a happenstance. So, whether it's computer code, whether it's something sprung out of a word or a thought. It's all the same to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing with the simulation theories, it doesn't really answer any questions, because then who created the people that
Where did they
created
come
us?
from?
You're really back where you started.
Yeah.
That's what I just can't comprehend, man.
Yeah.
I grew up in church and all of that too, but I just look at it in a different way, like the kind of the Jordan Peterson way, where it's just like all of these religions are symbolic. God does exist, however you phrase it. It's not a white dude in the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a white guy in the Middle East either. It's like people say God is love, and I believe that. So you have to think like equals. God is love.
God is
like that's what it
consciousness.
is.
God
And
is,
it's infinite and it's endless and it's all encompassing and all that stuff. But it's like I think religions as we know them are just they're symbolic and they're guides through life that people need and they take way too literally and then fight about. Instead of like getting the whole point of it in the first place.
Well, like a quote I grew up with, and it can certainly be debated. Maybe in the comments below. Who knows? It's scary. But this quote I grew up with was that religion is God in pursuit of man, and religion is man in pursuit of God.
That's backwards.
Religion is man in pursuit of God. Christ was a God in pursuit of man. Is the quote I grew up with.
Yeah.
But religion is man's construct. It's man's trying to understand.
Yeah, that's
what
how
we
I feel.
have.
I feel like it's just putting gigantic ideas into words that we can understand.
Or
Right.
It's
attempt
just
to,
ideas that we
Something-
will never fully comprehend. Just trying to boil them down.
Well, it's interesting. It kind of also makes me think about. I was watching this video on Wisecrack on YouTube, and it was talking about The Last Jedi, how it was kind of breaking down the ideology of
I'm good, thank you.
breaking down the ideology of Star Wars, and how Luke Skywalker is basically saying the Jedi is a religious order, of understanding the Force. Like, the Force is not the Jedi, And that was actually kind of interesting to see, as much as The Last Jedi really made me upset.
Something cool, like, I always like to think about with the simulation theory and, like, regards to life, how it, like, compares is, like, so our world is basically built off duality. You know, good, bad, love, hate, you know. And
for sure.
I think the ultimate goal in life is to find a balance between those things. Like, you can't be all the way one or the other, or you're not experiencing life as a whole. And that's just my personal philosophy. But I feel like the duality thing is cool because it relates to computer code in a way, because, you know, everything breaks down to ones and zeros at the most basic level. You know, on and off. That's basically all ones and zeros are. It's just saying, like, a signal that goes on and off, on and off, on and off.
We're just existing somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
True.
We're attempting to.
Attempting to.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think there's a balance to everything.
For sure.
What religion is that?
Buddhist.
That's where like the thing comes from.
Humanism.
Human.
You know,
Yo, yin,
No, I don't
yin
know.
and yang.
yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
where I
yeah, yeah. That's Buddhism.
True.
Yeah, I feel like we need more, as far as religion goes, like Eastern influence over here. Because it's like they've been around for so much longer than all of
Yeah.
us,
True, yeah.
as in Western Hemisphere people.
Yeah.
So it's like they're onto something. Like they've had thousands of years more practice at
Yeah.
figuring out what life's about. Like I feel like we could go back to, and things are still sacred to them, which is like refreshing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like nothing is sacred.
Right.
I don't know if
Buddhism
it's
has
a
a
generational
cool...
thing or just whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism has a cool, like, when I was talking about balance, they have a cool thing called the middle path. And that was the whole thing that, like, Gandhi was trying to get across to people.
Well, you know what's also interesting, Cody, maybe if you do want to pull it up, you know, that way we can maybe put links down in the description below. But this is actually from the same Wisecrack video where he was talking about, again, breaking down the philosophy of The Last Jedi. That, you know, Kylo Ren is kind of adopting more of that, like, gray Jedi path where you're talking about, you know, embracing your dark side and your light side. And there was a philosopher that he ended up bringing up in that video that kind of talks about that duality and how in some ways psychologically it can be argued that repressing that, you know, those quote unquote darker tendencies, or however you want to phrase it, that other path of yours, that duality split of yourself, that it can be harmful in, like, kind of exploring all aspects about yourself.
True.
If we want to get back into, like, the VR, AR mindset, too, like, what if that will help people in, like, everyday life, having, like, that outlet to go, like, in, like, a almost next to real scenario and be able to do, like, Grand Theft Auto stuff and, you know, stuff like that. And then,
See, that's tough.
I don't know if that could
would
be,
that have a
could
good
be
effect
bad.
or a bad effect?
Well, I just feel like when VR gets to the point where you can kind of live the life that you want to be, like you create your avatar.
There'll probably be people that never want to leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
I can't imagine why you would. If you
Right,
could be who you wanted to be.
Yeah, like if I could be in a country band, I would stay forever.
But I mean, it just goes back to, because everything, if you watch, like, generationally, everything becomes easier over time. So it's like that instant gratification. That's why it's like, it sucks to, you know, lose weight or, you know, go to the gym and stuff like that, because it takes
have a
time.
meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
With literally anyone.
Pursue music, like anything like kind of creative and stuff that's not instantly gratification. You know, you don't get a feel good instantly. And so we're trying to get there. So with VR, it's like, boom, like you can shred on the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you don't have to put in the hundreds of hours
Right.
and everything. And it's like, why would you want to come back to where you're just stuck with this shitty body? You know?
But if life is a simulation, then why couldn't we do that in normal life?
Well, you
I mean,
can.
that's a deep question
Well, if
for
it
sure.
gets to
Because, like,
that
you're
point.
talking about, like, actual criminal activity, like, in the world.
No. He's talking about, like, the instant gratification, like being an avatar and being able to do whatever you want. It's like, well, why can't you do that in real life if it's a simulation?
Well, I think that
but-
technically we can. It's just we experience it slower. It's like you can achieve those things, but it's a lot more of a grueling process.
I've also heard, like, if we are a simulation, then whoever made the simulation must live the most boring ever
True.
life, because it's like, if we made
Oh,
VR
yeah, it
and
was
all
on
that, it'd be
JRE,
like
But see,
yeah.
that's why I
the
think
most
of
like an action movie all the time, and maybe that's where our lives are
Yeah.
to them.
Elon
But
was
to
talking
us,
about
we're
that
just
on
like,
JRE.
But see, I
"It's
feel
going
like that's
so
why
slow." But to them, they're like, "Wow!"
we would be like an ancestor simulation where they're viewing what the past was like. Like, that's how I kind of think of the simulation, if it goes that route, because it does seem like our lives are kind of boring and it'd be weird to watch, you know, that. So, like, I feel like it would be more of, like, what was the world like in the year 2019?
And maybe just the way time is perceived for them is way different.
Yeah, it's like in The Sims, think of The Sims, like when time's going and everything, it's like, it's a lot faster, but if it was, you know, they could be watching us and these moments are really, you know, quick. Like, days go by really quick.
People watch fucking reality TV, so, like, who's to say that there's not a creator that'd be like, oh, fuck yeah.
Just like a 24/7, just like live cam.
Got the Civil War #2 right now. It's crazy.
This week, Tim brings Coronas. Corona stemming back to season 3, if you remember, when he was 19 years old. What a memory, are we right?
All I hope is that the creator of our simulation is like watching this right now and being like, they get it.
They are right.
Delete. Shut them down.
So we're talking about Experiment off of, again, our 2018 EP of Horse Reality. I gotta say,
year.
So ready to be done with it, to be honest. I love this EP, but goddamn.
I'm proud. Time to move on.
Proud to be an American. I do have to say, though, Experiment is probably my favorite song musically. Off the EP.
It seems to have gotten pretty good feedback,
which is crazy because that was actually the first song. I remember I had a riff when I came here. I wrote it like when my last week in Kansas, and it was and that was the intro, and then
it doesn't sound as good when you do it.
Verses.
Right.
Which sets it apart.
Yeah. I remember
I mean musically, not only lyrically.
Yeah, I remember that because it was very influenced by Whitewashed, right?
Yeah.
By ABR.
Yeah, the intro was very like...
And then we threw a harmony on it.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah.
And it wasn't like a straightforward harmony. Yeah, it was the first song that Chris and I like worked on together, really.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. In Antioch, Nashville.
A lot of
Tennessee.
Like back and forth. I think Chris wrote the verse. I had the chorus from an old song that I had too.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that's one of...
That's funny.
Because, it was one of the first ones. But
that was where we played around.
In a way. Yeah, that was where we played around with our sound a lot, too, and doing the dueling leads and everything, which we knew that we wanted to do, and back and forth guitar solos and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's that one part where it's like like
it's probably my favorite song, maybe the EP, but
that part.
I don't even know where that came from.
It's one of the most fun to play.
Yeah.
See, I feel like that transitions horribly. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, this doesn't...
Well, I feel like it's a good break from the chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, the transition...
I shouldn't say horribly.
I want to take that part and
harsh.
make an entire song out of it.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I want to do.
I think it's every song.
It almost feels like kind of... almost kind of genty to me.
Yeah.
Bit,
yeah.
You know?
Well,
like
the very ending, it's like the open shit. We did like a genty type, palm mute type thing on it.
Definitely.
Right.
So
it's still melodic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We like to pull from our love of heavy shit, try to incorporate it in drop C. We're going to be tuning down someday.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah. I was just saying, eventually bands do. So.
I don't know, or they go the other way.
True.
Tune up.
Well, we're going to tune down. Standard. We're going to tune down, but get poppier.
We're going to Nashville tuning.
Yeah. We're going to go.
What's the Nashville
We're going to play on
Standard?
46s.
Dude, it's like all high strings. You ever seen that? It's like an acoustic, but the bottom 3 like thick strings are the same as the top. They're the same thickness as the top.
Yeah,
46.
Sam had a guitar that
did
that,
exactly.
yeah.
And you just strum over, and it's basically like makes a regular acoustic track like into a 12-string
Just plays a C chord the whole time.
What?
It's literally called Nashville tuning.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's like guitars.
It's
all
really
high
cool.
strings, like an octave up, basically. So you just play the guitar over the regular acoustic, and it like...
It's called a ukulele.
Oh, yeah, like a 12-string.
Whoa, you just blew my mind.
Yeah, dude.
Can't wait to see that.
Country songs.
Country songs. Well, you know, one thing you were talking about earlier, again, talking about the verses, you know, bring it back to the lyrics. Let's kind of talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about the first verse.
Sit back and relax.
Sit back and relax. Heavy Days. This is a very informal host position here. A heavy days has washed away and left us out to dry, awoken to a truth hidden in plain sight. So let's talk about that.
Heavy days is obviously you're sleeping in a brainwashed state, and it's been pulled over our eyes, and we had to wake up from it.
And then verse 2, what do we do now, knowing we can never go back? It seems that our ignorance was bliss. Yeah, you talked about that a little bit earlier.
That's what I'm saying about just like people realize that we're in a simulation. You're just like, what is my life? Like, who am I? What does anything matter? Because it's all pre-programmed, or you're just running on this, computer. It's like nothing like we think of our lives now. And that's a big topic too, is free will. Chris and I talk about this a lot. And like, if we have free will, and I don't know, that's another one that's tough, because I feel like you're gonna make a decision, and so like, is it free will? It's like you have the illusion of choice.
It feels like you make a decision.
Yeah.
You have all the internal processes that like make it feel like a decision, but it could just be fate or whatever you want to call it,
or it could just be the way
or
the
programmed.
simulation
I
is
think it's just an
scripted.
accumulation of everything, making it feel like you're making a decision. But I think there's just so much like information that goes into it to making a decision.
Well, like you said
going
earlier,
behind
like
the scenes that you're not aware
what
of.
prompted us all at the same time to move to Nashville.
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
how do you like plan that?
Anything.
Yeah.
Why did you eat what you ate for lunch today?
Nothing.
My
Why didn't you eat anything for
stomach
lunch today?
bacteria wanted it.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
His tapeworm was like food.
I would say my favorite part in Experiment is
Hell yeah.
okay, so my favorite thing about Experiment is the bass and drums do like a little breakdown during the chorus, and then after the third chorus, we go into that breakdown on the guitars too. And lyrically, that was a lot of fun, because it was like just this kind of like straightforward rhythm, kind of like a rap rhythm, like, and he was just screaming. But I love those lyrics. You wanna?
Yeah. At the third chorus.
Pull that shit up, Timothy.
Yeah, like right after
Breakdown. I think
So
it's the very end.
living out our trial run, we're left behind to find our way.
Yeah, so then it's like, find our way. We've been enslaved.
I think it's the very end.
Yeah.
Bars.
Find our way. We've been enslaved by the gods who own this world and will not let us disengage.
Yeah. See, that's cool, because that's just talking about how they're so much smarter than us. And so, like, the only way we figure out this is a simulation is if they allow us. And so they didn't allow us to disengage from what we were known, but then it's like we find this way. We find our way through.
Ooh, we should have the Experiment part 2 where we talk about why they let us know.
Ooh. Well, that makes you think now, like, why, like, if we do know that we are actually in a simulation right now, like, why did they let us know?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's just the point that like we advance so much as a culture and as a society, because we have like, we're not hunter-gatherers anymore. We have all this time to think and sit, and maybe there's a point in like each simulation where the simulated realize like, oh hey, what's this? Like,
Yeah. And then like the part after that is like, now we're awake.
And now we're awake, no mind to break. Our consciousness creates divide, nowhere left to hide. Open your eyes.
And that's kind of like a call out to evolve, like about consciousness and everything.
our whole EP talks about consciousness.
Yeah. But evolve
I think
really goes into it.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand.
But
Yeah,
that's
for
just
sure.
like our consciousness creates divide, and that's about how some people would take it as an opportunity, and be like, oh shit, it's a simulation. I can kind of forge my own reality. And
But
but other people would just like kind of cower, and I mean that's nothing like against certain people. It's just some people are a lot more open to ideas and like taking the shots as they come, and other people are very like their life needs to be structured. So it's just about consciousness creates divide, because everybody's consciousness is different.
That's really weird how you interpret that. Yeah, that's so cool about music, like how people can interpret lyrics differently. Because like the way like I was thinking when we wrote it out was like, the whole dualism thing. Our consciousness created this divide, and like now that we're awake, we have to fucking unite and become one.
Yeah, which it does go into that, about how that's like the very ending, kind of like the big ending interlude, where it's like, let's create a world that is worth living in, kind of. What are the lyrics?
And accepting reality.
Are you talking about from the chorus or just the
No,
very end?
after that, yeah, the very end.
I don't know.
So after verse 2, because we already talked about, find our way here. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the rebirth of mankind.
Yeah, that's the end. Wow, why is
we
that there?
become intertwined.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Those are like my lyrics I was writing when we were writing the song. I had them on my phone, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, with the rebirth of mankind, we become intertwined. In awareness, we are realigned, see through the light and through your mind.
Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of just like people coming together and everything through this new discovery.
Like, because I mean, what are you gonna do once you realize you're a simulation? Like, can you get out? Like, can you? Are you able to get out?
Does it even change anything knowing?
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's like your life's the same. It's like nothing's different.
Maybe you just need a better better outlook on it. Be like, okay, like all this was simulated, but that doesn't mean that like
I would just have some.
This isn't real to me.
I'm trying to have some fun with it then.
Well, that's the cool thing. I always like to think about, really like trying to stay positive about things, because if you take two people in the exact same situation, somebody got a flat tire, and they're on the side of the road, and one person is just like freaking out about it, like, what am I gonna do? I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I don't have anybody to call, and all this stuff. But the other person's like really calm and trying to figure out. They're in the exact same situation, but they perceive it so differently because of how they're reacting to it. And so I think that's just such a huge thing in life for everybody, is like take everything and try to look at it in like a moderately positive light. I mean, it's
I
not
feel
like
that goes to, you could segue into like meditation with that.
Yeah.
Because it's like the whole idea of either being caught up in the shitstorm that is your train of thought, or it's like being outside of it and like observing it as like a
because the thing is,
separate thing.
seeing the bigger picture.
Because the thing is, like, everybody has shit in their life, and so it's like you can't feel sorry for yourself and be like, well, I can't, how am I gonna pay my bills this month or something? Which I know it sucks when that comes up, but it's like everybody's going through something, so it's like if you take it positively, it's like you're gonna find a way. Nobody's ever died because they couldn't pay their bills.
Yeah.
It's like most people find a way.
Someone has.
It's true, okay.
Someone has.
But it
Yeah.
goes.
freeze to death because they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
It's called the mafia.
It just goes.
But I feel like that could be from the person that tries, though, is usually gonna find a way.
Yeah.
Whereas like the person that's like, I don't know what to do. Like, my life sucks. I'm just gonna sit here and
This is me. This is my life.
Yeah. Everything happens to me. Everything always
Me,
happens
me,
at
me,
once
me,
to me.
yeah.
You know,
It's just
it's,
my luck.
yeah. And it's like other people are in way worse situations and they could be way happier than you. It's like it's literally perspective.
It just goes back to the balance thing. Like it's not always
True.
daisies.
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
Something cool about the meditation thing that he mentioned, like, and I know you do mindfulness meditation too.
Oh yeah, big fan.
Sam Harris.
Big thing. Like even if we found out we're in a simulation, like just the fact that this is real to us, and we take those moments throughout the day to be mindful and to be like 100% in the moment. Like, doesn't really matter if we're in a simulation or not. Just the fact that we're able to have those thoughts and be completely in the moment.
Just the fact that you're conscious. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just like a positive thing. It's like you were given this kind of cool experience.
Yeah, you're here, man.
Us in America.
That's like
in
the
other
point
countries, but
that's the point of meditation. Just like accept it for what it is, and don't try to color it with your own perception.
Do you remember watching the podcast about? I watched it with you, Brian, and they were talking about how when you're at the bottom, like 1%, it's like impossible to get out.
What do you mean?
It's like it's hard to progress past. Like when you're really in the shittiest bottom 1% of the world, like you can't get out of it, but like most other people have opportunities. Because I would say we're in like the top 1%, being
We're not in the top
Americans.
1% of the 1%. But
We're
not in the
we're in the
1%.
97%.
But I just mean
We're
like
up
being
there.
in America, and it's like having these things. Like we
We're
have a
definitely up
house, we can we have a camera.
We're shooting a
computers.
podcast.
Yeah.
Like we could be far.
It's
We're
like
also
with
a
the bottom
community.
Yeah, there could be
1%.
like bombs going off outside.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so like it's really hard to have perspective on that, because like the people in like Ethiopia who just really can't get out, like, or how do you get out, like how
That's
Yeah,
when you
man.
have to do those like daring and crazy things where you're like, someone's got to smuggle me out, and I don't know how I'm gonna make it, but I'm
just
gonna
go
make
for
it.
it.
Because there are definitely success stories like that in the U.S. of people who've been in those kind of crazy situations. I've even heard stories about like people who were like in Vietnam, you know, like back in the day, and like their family was the Viet Cong, and like they had to fucking find a way out, and they just had to be smuggled out, and like here they are in the U.S. like chasing the dream.
In certain situations, it's completely unavoidable, like you were saying.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would just hope that I would be someone that would like.
Yeah, try to
go out swinging.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just trying to go the right way.
That's another thing you try to have perspective on is like we're really lucky. It's like we might not be, you know, rich or anything like that, but it's like we live pretty cool lives.
It's tough to like realize that though, because you see the world through your perspective, and that's like all you know.
Well, and
so it's
everything's
easy
about
to like take things for granted.
I think our society is engineered to make you like just constantly focus on the grind.
And to want more. I think because like that's
always
monetization.
Looking at everyone's highlight reel.
Yeah, Instagram is just about trying
to measure up.
Yeah, it's like look at this person, like they're on vacation and stuff, and you're like, wow, they're living such a cool life. But like, who knows? Because like obviously they're just showing you what they want you to see, and so like you think of it as like, wow, they live this great life, and I just sit in my house. But it's like, we could make our lives look pretty dope.
Yeah, that's just social media.
That's another crazy thing I think about the simulation theory is like, why have they set this like society in place where, you know, everything is based off money and like the climb to reach the top and be at the top of that pyramid, you know?
Like I said, I feel like it's just the only way that I can comprehend it is just ancestor simulation. Like this is how the world used to be, and it's like they're literally running of like this is the way in that world, that dimension of where they created it, like that was their past, and then they evolved past it and stuff. So it's more of like watching the past happen. Since
like they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like they want to watch and see.
That's not comforting because then they don't know the point of everything.
Well, it could also be just that if you make a society that's super materialistic, you're eventually going to get to the level of technical.
Yeah, it does help growth.
That is the whole idea.
It's kind of like that thing with Tesla, you know, and they're talking about how they're so far advanced with their software, like, and there's no competition, so it's not gonna that's not good. It's like because
which sounds good for them, but it's not good.
But it's not good at the moment
because they're not gonna improve. Faster. Yeah, it's crazy. They're like years ahead.
Look at NASA. Like they haven't innovated. Because who can compare to NASA?
Exactly.
And now there's SpaceX.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
That's all PR according to Alex Jones. So
SpaceX.
Alex Jones.
It's all that shooting rockets and all that.
I swear you've mentioned Alex Jones in every podcast.
Dude, that one messed up my mind, dude. I was like, he says just enough things in a row that almost makes sense. Where you're like, bro.
And he kind of leaves it vague too.
What if he's totally making sense the whole time? That'd be crazy.
That's how I felt with Tom DeLonge. I was like,
See, I just like the presentation. Like this is.
I just want to believe what they're saying because of how they say it.
That's another interesting.
Can I have on my conspiracy thing with Tom DeLonge?
Yes, give it
so what's curious about him is he has all these high-level government people backing him up.
Exactly. See, that's what makes it like
true.
But I watched a bunch of
See,
it's documented.
I've done my research.
Cody,
Tom DeLonge.
Pull that shit up.
JRE.
I definitely got to know about this. I don't know anything.
You didn't watch that
podcast? Look up To the Stars. Look up To the Stars and see who's on his board of directors.
But see, I read a thing where... Will you grab me one? Where it was like they were literally like grooming him to screw him over. Like, it was...
And I've heard that they've done that in the past with other people. Excuse me.
Yeah. And so... Thank you.
Bottle cap.
It's like Fort Knox.
So, like, that was the only thing that made sense for why they had that. But, like, when was that podcast? Like 2 years ago?
I don't.
Maybe
I just have to see it.
Dude, you gotta watch it. It's so fucking
He's an
wild.
alien nut. He's like 100% believer.
Yeah.
He's like, but he's got all these like scientists and cutting edge people that are like, yeah, we can.
Joe Rogan didn't like him because he was like, oh, I can't talk about this.
Yeah, he said, oh, I can't talk about this. I can't talk about that. I don't want to talk about that yet. Yeah. And he's just like, I'm not buying
it. Well,
it.
like, nothing's been really announced since then.
I haven't heard shit.
Cody, did you see you find anything?
But just the mere fact of how entertaining it is worth
it's
watching.
wild, man. It's such a
Which is whole Alex Jones.
But see, like
thing.
that's another thing that's really interesting is how we always want these supernatural like phenomenons to happen. We want
we want aliens.
We want the unimaginable to just show up in front of us.
We want to see something that we are not used to seeing, and it's like, and that's why all these conspiracies and stuff, come out. I feel like is because like you want it so bad because it would be cool. It's like because it's changing up your world.
It would be insane.
Well, the thing about conspiracies too, like speculation, is like I don't know. You're gonna get me on my fucking boat here.
Here we go.
Get on it, man.
Sit back, strap yourselves in.
We're ready.
With my personal philosophy, like in the way I view like the universe and life, I like literally believe that anything is possible. And like the cool thing like with conspiracies is like in any speculation in general is like if you put something out there, like it's entirely possible that could be the case. Like you can't ever tell.
Yeah, then you have to prove that that's not true.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like
It's true. Yeah, you gotta prove it's not true.
And that's part of the fun too. Like for me is like digging into shit and being like, oh, this is bullshit.
If you could think it, it could be possible.
Obama did 9/11.
But he,
Bro.
Can you prove it?
You heard it here
wasn't?
first.
Did he not?
Obama. Thanks, Obama.
prove it.
Just that
Prove
home
it's not-
shuffling
prove
with
it
the
didn't
suitcase. I
happen.
gotta
But
leave
I'll
town.
tell you
I know.
what, 9/11 didn't happen when Obama was
Like a
president.
Secret Service, Secret Service just busted our doors. Like
The secret's out.
And then they sit down and we interview them.
Great timing.
That would be a
have
podcast.
seat. Have a Corona.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
this
we get someone
podcast is
from
brought to you by Corona. Life's a beach.
No, it's not. Give us some money.
Has it occurred to them that the Secret Service initials is SS? Is that?
Run that by me one more time.
Say it one more time.
Secret
For the
Service.
people in the back.
I'm in the back.
I don't get it.
Is that not what like the Nazis were?
Yeah.
The SS, yeah.
Oh, I never heard that.
Secret Service.
Oh, what's
The
that?
SS was like their police force that like started the whole thing.
Hail Hydra! No.
Their Okay, take it easy, Tim.
No.
I didn't mean
Edit
to
that
excite you. Like a military police force was like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cody, did you get anything on? Did you see?
To the stars, yes. Some of the people that Tom has on his team, he has just like a wide variety of like different places. So he's got a guy named Jim Semivan. He was a
Not a full van.
Semi-van.
he was a senior intelligence service member in the CIA. He has a CEO of Earth Tech International, and I'm pretty sure those are like his big two. He has another guy that's from the Army. He was a ranking member in the Army.
Yeah.
A guy that's went to school for technology. They've been in it for 31 years. A lot of guys from a bunch of different places that he's got following him.
It's a really impressive. Like, what the hell? Like, how's he have all these people?
But still,
like,
nothing's come from it.
They're also showing here he's like $37 million.
Have you read the
Yeah.
books?
Read
He's
what
put out?
books? No,
And
I
he
haven't
had-
read his books.
And he had people like crowdfunding.
I'm not giving him
and
money.
stuff.
$37 million.
Yeah, see how much money like was crowdfunded.
I
'Cause
can't
I know it
imagine being in that much debt. Like,
Yeah, but see, like
Man, I'd
people
go
want
all
it to
out.
happen so bad, like especially after that Joe Rogan podcast came out, and like that was
Oh, I'm
that was
sure.
new at the time. And it's like, and then people went and it's like people want that to happen, so they invest in that stuff,
Yeah.
like because
Yeah,
you want it to happen.
Understandably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Just want it to
invest.
be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Final Fantasy VII remake.
I hope it is.
So he has 2 books out right now that I've actually read. They're called
I am Tom
Secret Machines.
DeLonge.
they're called
Blink 183.
they're called Secret Machines. One book is fiction that's supposedly based on events that happened, but it's like not real events. It's just kind of based around like a real story. And the other
Okay.
book is kind of like autobiographical in a sense, to where it's like, well, not autobiographical. What's the word where they take a bunch of sources and compile it into one?
A book.
Bioptic.
say that one more time. What was the question?
Bunch of sources compile it into one. Like it's a anthology.
You're like way over my head
Something.
right now. I have no idea.
Anyways, but that one's nonfiction. That one's actually taking like cases from like different places, and it actually takes stuff from like ancient cultures and mixes it in. So it's like kind of cool.
Well, that was his thing too, because he was gonna release like movies and shit that were
Yeah, just like pop culture
yeah.
type things to like prepare you to like ease you into like what could even be possible.
Disclosure.
So that they could eventually roll out that it is all actually possible and
Yeah.
you'd be like more open to it.
Another thing that's funny about him is a lot of the disclosure people that have been out for a while, like what's this one dude's name? You see him on Ancient Aliens. I can't think of his name.
The dude that's
Aliens.
Yeah, the
But yeah,
frizzy hair
they
guy.
So
all-
what you're saying?
They all
Aliens.
hate Tom DeLonge. Like
Really?
for some reason, yeah.
This is bigger than them.
He's a
Cody,
rock
did we
star.
ever find out about that philosopher with Wisecrack earlier?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I found the guy you're talking
Just gotta
about.
name drop him.
He's a psychiatrist, not a philosopher. But
My
he
bad.
did have a lot of his works taken, So in a lot of ways, he was a philosopher as well. But Carl Jung.
Carl Jung.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've heard of him.
Sorry, Carl Jung.
It's Jung.
Carl Jung.
I've heard
Yeah.
Young.
Jung.
As you were, young Cody.
Okay.
Did you get the? Oh, go ahead.
Jung.
Yeah,
Jung.
no, no,
It's
it's
Jung.
Jung. It's both of them.
It's Jung Cody.
So,
Carl Jung.
It's dumb code.
No!
But like what Carl Jung talked about
Thank you.
was he like wanted you to like your first step in like really like coming to enlightenment was like recognizing that there's this dark part of you, like per se you go out, you do something bad, and you feel shit about yourself. It's like recognizing that you feel that way, and embracing that's just as important as when you feel good about yourself. And then once you get to that point where you're comfortable and know that bad part of you is just as important, you can really move along in your psyche,
Yeah. Know yourself.
Accept the shit.
Exactly. Tom DeLonge, what he started his crowdfunding for was to build a spaceship that could bend the fabric of space-time.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he could go through space, air, and water with it, and he raised over $380,000.
What?
$380,000.
How?
It's like a fin.
Only
On that fucking
36,200,000 to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but still, like, what I mean is, like, that's $380,000
Right,
that
yeah.
people invested in this guy
'Cause
who's
some they want it to
37
happen.
million in the hole.
They want it to be true.
At that point, I feel like it's just people being like, yeah, sure, let's see what happens.
I like Blink.
It's not impossible,
It's
right?
just
For,
improbable.
for time travel, gotta be able to
on
bend
paper,
space-time.
it's possible.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll give them
Not to
that.
the past, though.
Endgame.
Not to the past.
Not to
If
the
there,
past.
if it was possible to go to the past, we would have people.
Mhm.
from
Unless
a long time
'cause
ago, we would have had people.
I
from
feel
the
like-
future
Well,
come
because
back.
on paper, like how time travel is possible is just speed. Like you can go so
Yeah.
fast,
it's
you
like
can
getting
travel
close.
faster.
It's like getting close to a black hole where it.
Yeah.
That was the cool thing about Interstellar.
because math.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no way to
science.
regress speed.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
you know.
what would be interesting if you think about like kind of spoiler alert, sort of for have people seen Endgame?
Yeah, you're fine. I
Okay.
saw it.
Well,
Not a spoiler, but kind of.
okay.
They do talk about how in the Endgame universe, the way that time travel works is, you end up splitting those multiple. Oh my goodness, multiple timelines off. Smiling at
Sorry.
me.
I was just happy you got it.
You guys are cute.
But you end up splitting these multiple timelines off that are like completely different dimensions. So like, what if we're just like the fractal one dimension of like maybe there was already or there is going to be some instance of time travel, and we are just that fractal like reality
Mhm.
that is spurred off from that one decision that's already
could
or
be.
will happen.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend.
That's
I feel
kinda
like
nuts to
time
think
travel
about.
might be possible to the past after a time machine's made. That's my only.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
No. I mean, like, a time machine is made, and then at that point, say it's 10 years in the future, then you
Oh,
can
you go
travel
back.
back
See,
to
okay,
Gotcha.
yeah. I get behind that because
only
paradoxes.
go as far
I
as
feel like a
okay,
ham
that makes
sandwich is
sense.
possible after I assemble myself a ham sandwich.
On that note, you guys ready to go practice?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey,
That's
we're
fine,
about
yeah.
to go practice, guys. Produce some wonderful content coming up for you in 2019 and
Yeah.
2020, the years to come. Again, this is the Archeons band from Nashville with the Arc Hive. Of course, signing off as always. Have a wonderful time, and we'll see you around the Archive.
Woo!
Peace.
Cheers.
Bye.
Fuck!